Solar egg transmitting.
Time for sound design. In this video, I sampled a giant metal egg and created a soundscape from it. So I traveled to this art museum in the Stockholm archipelago, and the museum is called Artipelag. In the outside area, they have sculptures, and one of the permanent sculptures they have is this metal egg. It's called Solar Egg, and it's at the waterfront. And I recorded sounds from this environment, and specifically this egg, by hitting it and rubbing it and tapping it. And also recorded some sounds from the water and the general environment, the woods, the trees, the stones. And with all these sounds, I created a soundscape in Ableton. So for the recording of the sounds, I used the Zoom H5 recorder with a windscreen, because again, it was a windy location. I loaded all those sounds into Ableton. I will show you now how I created the soundscape. So this is the Ableton session, and I used 9 layers with 9 different sounds. 8 of them are from the location, and 1 of them I created afterwards. So let's start with the main sound. So this egg at the waterfront reminded me of some kind of beacon. So I wanted to have kind of a high sound that would repeat to have this idea of receiving or transmitting some kind of communication. So what I did is I used the finger rubbing sound when I rubbed the metal surface. So from this recording here, there are some rubbing parts. I loaded that into Simpler, and what I did is I used the slice mode in Simpler. So here normally it's on classic or one shot, but if you put it on slice, you can, with the sensitivity, you can create multiple slices. So when I now play on the keyboard, if I play a C1, plays back the first slice. So this is me rubbing against the metal. Put a low cut EQ on this and a bit of reverb, and then I created this kind of rhythm. So I used only the very short sounds. And this is my beacon sound. Then for the second layer, I used a loop to create a bit of background texture. And this is actually from the same sample in a different part of the sample, the recording. So here you have some kind of water noise and a little bit of a tick. Added a pedal with some overdrive and a low cut EQ. The third layer is again from the same sample, but I used a different bit. So here now I used the kind of ticking when I was with my nails ticking against the metal. And then I pitch it up 2 octaves and a low cut EQ and an auto pan, and it sounds like this. So this is really kind of a sound that also reminds me a bit of like a communication or maybe some kind of data transfer going on. And I think together with the beacon sounds, this sounds really nice. So you really feel like there's something going on here. Going to layer number 4, which is again a loop of a texture, still in the same recording. And this one I pitched down almost 2 octaves, -20. And I boosted the volume a lot because it's actually very low in volume. And then I cut everything under 3 kilohertz. So this is really like a background texture. And then together with the other texture. The other one has a little click in the beginning of the loop. So this is really to fill up the space. Then layer number 5 is actually, it's a different recording. And this was not the egg, but if you walk towards the egg, there's a little information sign. It's a metal sign that tells you something about the egg, and it's metal. So I was just hitting that with my finger. And that's why you get this kind of tick sound. So I put that into Simpler. I changed the start and end point, a low cut EQ, a delay, and a very big 12-second decay reverb that's completely wet. So that creates this sound. It's a massive reverb. And then what I did is I copied this track and I froze it and reversed it and took a part out. So that's the next layer, which is a reverse that you see a few times repeated. The next sound is a loop of some leaves that I touch and create some sound with. And there's just a low cut EQ in this one. And the loop length is done at random, so you don't hear the loop at the start of the beat. And then the last layer from this location is another loop. And I think this was me rubbing a tree. And you also in the background hear the water, and it's just a low cut EQ as well. So those are all the sounds from this location. And as you can see, this is the arrangement. So it's very simple. The whole thing only lasts for 1 minute. The reverb sound, for instance, you only hear once, but the transmitting sound and the beacon sound are continuous. And then here at the end, I increase the frequency or the pattern of the beacon sound. So you will hear it like this. Oh. And at the end, you can see there's some automation. There's a delay actually on the beacon sound. So this was all fine, but I still felt there was something missing here. So of course, it's all instrumental and it's very textural. There's not really melody. There's this beacon and this kind of transmitting sound. So that gives you kind of a feeling of some kind of, together with the footage, maybe some kind of extraterrestrial communication device, because it looks so futuristic. So that's what I thought, like if you would have a voice that says something, that could be a nice addition to this. So what I did is I used Google Translate. I typed in Solar Egg transmitting, because the name of the sculpture is Solar Egg. And then I recorded that sample. And then I put that into Ableton. So as you can see here on the last track, I pitched it down 3 actually. And I also put a auto pan on it and a low cut EQ.
Solar Egg transmitting.
So you hear that it goes from left to right. And on the last part there's a delay.
Solar Egg transmitting.
And then I repeat that a few times. And I think that this is really the finishing touch to the soundscape.
Solar Egg transmitting.
When you have the textures and the beacon sounds.
Solar Egg transmitting.
So that's how I created this soundscape, by sampling this egg and doing sound design in Ableton and using Google Translate to create kind of a vocal sample for this soundscape. I will now play the entire soundscape with more footage of the location. The location I will also link down in the description, and also a link to the museum. If you have any locations that are good for sampling, let me know in the comments. And if you have any questions about how I recorded the soundscape or how I did the sound design, ask me in the comments as well. Let's see you in the next one.
Solar Egg transmitting. Solar Egg transmitting. Solar Egg transmitting. Solar Egg transmitting. Solar Egg transmitting.